When going on a journey like we are here, it's a great idea to have a map. Maps can tell you where you are. They can give you a sense of the lay of the land. And they also can tell you how to get from where you are to where you'd like to go to. We're going to use a map that will help us understand our nervous system, how our nervous system reacts to life, and how to help our nervous system become more flexible, more adaptive, more balanced. So we're going to use a map called the window of tolerance. Some of you may be familiar with this. Dan Siegel coined the term window of tolerance in the early 2000s, I believe, and Pat Ogden turned it into this visualization. I've added a few details onto it. So you can see on this slide, the window of tolerance is two parallel lines. In the middle, called the window of tolerance, this is the zone of optimal arousal. This is where we have access to a balanced and flexible sense of regulation. This is also the place in the window of tolerance where we can access the social engagement system. We'll be talking much more about that. But for right now, if we're in the window of tolerance, that's how we can access the social engagement system, which in turn helps us connect more deeply with ourselves and more deeply and more fulfillingly with others. So above the window of tolerance, we have hyperarousal dysregulation. This is also known as fight or flight response. Symptoms here can include feelings of overwhelm, feeling or being rigid, tension throughout the body, addictions, rage, overeating or restricted eating, irritability, and others. And we'll go into this in more detail in a few moments. Below the window of tolerance, we have hypoarousal. This is too low or below the level of arousal. This is also known as the shutdown or immobilization, or sometimes even feigned death. Here you have a reduced awareness of sensation. You might be emotionally numb or flat, unable to think, dissociated, or very, very lethargic and sleepy, spacey. So when we're above or below the window of tolerance, we're struggling. Now, above and below the window of tolerance, we are being influenced by defensive states, by survival states. So our nervous system, whenever it picks up the lack of safety, will tend to respond in one of two ways. Initially, for most folks, not for everyone, our energy will go up. We will become hyper-aroused, angry, irritable, frustrated, red in the face. Or we could also go, if we're in hyperarousal, into fright, flight, running away, diving into binge watching Netflix, something to escape, substances, food. These are all ways of helping us run away. So we'll go to fight or flight. And then if those don't work, or if we've had a lot of trauma, especially in childhood, then we will tend to go towards hypoarousal. Now remember, anybody, even without trauma, will go into these states. But the idea is that the more dysregulated we are, the more time we spend in these states, and the more time we are cut off from really relating to ourselves or others because we're caught in these defensive states. One thing I also want to say about a defensive state, and we'll get more into this in a minute, is that it determines how and what you think. This is the window of tolerance, and that sine wave line going through the window of tolerance shows us a fairly normal way of moving within the window of tolerance. No one stays at the same level all day long. We move up and down within the window throughout the whole day. And at points of stress or tension, whether that's internally caused or externally caused, we might rise above or below the window. Sometimes we might get stuck there, or sometimes we might return back into the window of tolerance. Now, if you've had trauma, you or someone you know have had trauma, then it's going to look more like this window of tolerance. First, notice that the window itself is significantly constricted. It's smaller, meaning the area where you feel balanced and flexible regulation is narrow. And that more area of dysregulation, hyperarousal and hypoarousal, is available to you. So like in this graphic, we have someone who's had trauma, and you can see it starts at the high end of the window and goes into hyperactivation. It comes back down just again into the top of the window. Then it shoots back up into activation. And then that flat line up there is a period of being stuck in the activation. So maybe you've seen this in yourself where you get angry about something and you get really angry about it. And then you get distracted and maybe you hear something on the radio or something else and you relax a little bit, you come down out of that fury, and then somebody asks you about your day, or you see a car that reminds you of the person that you're angry at, and you shoot right back up into hyperarousal again. Maybe at this point, you kind of get stuck for minutes or hours on being furious or upset, or alternately terrified. And then if you spend enough time up there, the nervous system seeks balance. Like in this graphic, it will sometimes then shoot right through the window and go to hypoarousal. Some people will end up finding, I just need to take a nap, and they'll sleep for an hour or two after being so frightened or so angry. So if one has had trauma, one's window of tolerance is narrower, and the time they spend outside of their window of tolerance is greater. And as you can see, instead of being a kind of nice and easy and smooth sine wave, this is kind of a jagged, and it has sharp increases and sharp decreases. It's anything but smooth. This is what dysregulation looks like in a graph form. And what this doesn't convey is that if any of us are above or below the window of tolerance, we're suffering. We're suffering a little or we're suffering a lot, but you're not going to be happy if you're hyperaroused, and you're not going to be happy if you're hypoaroused. You're not going to be able to relate or connect to others in a truly authentic way in either hyper or hypoarousal. So you're more isolated and disconnected, and you're more stuck in these states of reactivity and survival actions.